My name is Julia Cruz. I have been coming to Glory Bell for almost 2 years now. And one of the things that I love the most about Glory Bell is the level of faith that is in this house. So the van life is where you take a van, whether it's a minivan or a big cargo van that some people build out. I started with what was it? It was a 2001 white Honda Odyssey. So I took out the middle seats, threw them out, completely disregarded them, put them on the back seats, and turned the entire cabin into an empty shell where I could literally put a mattress and all kinds of ottomans. And next thing you know, I'm living out this little one tiny, maybe like a New York size apartment on wheels. It was awesome. It was a fun time. It was a time where I was trying to discover who I am. I had this idea that I wanted to build my life from the ground up, like from scratch. You know, like how you make an amazing cake. You have all these ingredients, you just gotta put it all together and it would be something beautiful. And it was the most amazing journey I had ever been on to learn about myself. But that was both out of necessity as well as by choice. There were certain circumstances where I just had little faith in my own capabilities, let alone faith in anything else, that I just kind of kept withering away and didn't realize that. My faith was everywhere. And I mean, like, I tried Buddhism, I've tried not quite Hinduism, I kind of got lazy on that end. I used to practice Kundalini yoga and working with energy and Reiki and all of that. And it was something that was more so outwards, but never really took me inwards. I just know that God wasn't the front and center of it all, and because of that, I just didn't know where else to turn to. So I would literally look in all crevices, had all kinds of false prophets. I want to say there was just a season that I was going through that I realized I had this amazing job. I was a music teacher for babies and toddlers. I had pretty decent income. I was living a comfortable life. And I was always everywhere and anywhere that I wanted to be. So I had this freedom and I had this lifestyle that I really loved, but I had no one to share it with. And when I had that realization, it was just the most, I don't know what the exact word for it, but maybe I want to say decimating, but it's not quite decimating. Just definitely isolating, if anything. You know, I didn't feel any kind of solitude in my alone time. I actually really truly felt empty, and I was like, you know what, I need to go to a yoga class and meditate about this, or I need to go into a temple and just kind of meditate about this. It's always meditating. And then one day, it still wasn't working. It still wasn't working. So I said, you know what, okay, fine, God. God. I laughed, literally, I remember to this day. I laughed and I said, okay, God, you know what, screw it. I need community. I didn't know how to pray. I just said, God, I need community. What else? What do I say? You know, and it was just an entire domino effect from there. One night, I come into church and I meet this girl who just made eye contact with me, and I felt like a little kid in that moment. I was like, oh, okay, well, this would be awkward if I looked away, so let's be friends. So she's like, she just looks over, and I was like, come on over, you know, I don't know. So just, it's kind of what I did, you know, I just showed up and someone was like, hey. So I thought I would do the same. And her name was Courtney, and I will never forget her name. And I truly believe that that was an encounter with Jesus, because she just started talking to me and I just opened up like a floodgate of my feelings and my discontentment with this Jesus character. And she just heard me out. She never once said anything bad. She never gave me any words of wisdom. She just listened. And listened with such an open and loving heart too. It was the craziest experience. I like started getting upset about it in the seat. We were like, this is right before service was starting. And then all of a sudden they start singing Tremble, which is the most powerful song. Oh my gosh. That song, oh man. Well, first of all, it repeats the name Jesus multiple times. It goes like, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. And I was like, just like started crying, started bawling. And this girl is just like patting me on the knee, rubbing my back. She's comforting me like she's known me for years. And I was like, I don't know you, but thank you. Like, this is amazing, thank you. And then the pastor starts talking about owning your defeat. And owning my defeat was probably the most humbling message I could have had in that moment, because that's when I realized that Jesus is not this human person where if I'm gonna worship a human, I might as well worship myself. That was the perspective that I had on it. And when it came to that message, it flipped the perspective for me, and it allowed me to see that Jesus was God in human flesh, who's come to this earth to show us how to live out my life as a child of God. And that's when I was like, okay, I give up, I surrender, I get it now. And then at the end of the service too, the pastor was calling for baptisms, right? And this first wave of people go, and I was like, woo, yeah, you go. That's not me today, but it's you. Like, you go, people, you go. It's your time, you know? And then he calls a second wave of people after like it dies down, and then he brings the energy back up. Second wave goes, and I was like, increasingly getting more and more anxious, and the heat in my seat is literally getting hotter. And then it starts to die down, and he's getting ready to call that third wave, and he's like, I'm shaking just thinking about it. But he calls that third wave of people, and I felt bad because I totally cussed in church. And I said, F it. I grabbed my bag and in total sob mode, had to walk across the entire room just so I can get to the doors where they had us change and get in line. There was probably about 30 people just on my side. There were 2 tanks. There were 30 people on my side alone that got baptized. And even though you could see it as like a previous version of myself would have seen that as like, okay, this is like a mass baptism, like great, you know, everybody's in this line. But it truly felt like a one-on-one reconciliation with Christ. And I was able to fully let go. And when that baptism hit, I came out of that water, I started sobbing again, but not for the same reason of like, oh my gosh, like this realization is so powerful. It was more of a mourning of the person who I had always known myself to be. That person is now dead. And this person who is now growing is a fresh, completely brand new start. And I'll admit, I was really promiscuous. Back in the day, I was all over the place with my faith. I was consuming substances that was not good for my body. And I told myself, this is done. This is done. He told me it was done. So I was like, all right, it's done. If I could put it in the most simplest terms, it's been a difference of life and death. Life and death, because I feel that anytime I've actually turned away from God, or if I ever felt tempted to rely on myself, it never led to anything good. Never. And there had been times too where my faith had been tested, and I realized that as long as I'm the one behind this wheel, I'm gonna keep crashing it into the ground. Every single time I turn back to God and I say, I give up, you take the wheel, please, dear Lord. He's saved me every single time.